Shalom, this is Levi Shore. Welcome back to Sweet and Good Torah. Okay, so we just learned Parsha Toldos, and in the Parsha, there's a secret of how the Jewish people can end anti-Semitism, and it's simple. I'll give you the secret right off the bat, and then we'll talk about where the history of anti-Semitism comes from. But when Yaakov goes to get the blessing from Yitzhak, when Jacob goes to get the blessing from his father Isaac, he comes in and his mother Rivka, his mother Rebecca, helps disguise him as Esav, of his brother Esau. And Esav had already sold the birthright to Yaakov, and he said he didn't want it. Esav said he's going to die. He doesn't want it. He doesn't, care about Olam Haba. He doesn't believe in the rewards for the mitzvos. He doesn't believe in Techiyas HaMesim. One day Hashem's going to bring everyone back to life. He doesn't believe it. He doesn't see why it's good for him to chas v'shalom to learn Torah and do the mitzvos. So he gives it all up. He gives it all up for a bowl of lentil soup. And I think the Midrashim say that also Yaakov paid him a considerable sum of money. But now, like Yaakov went in to get what was rightfully his, the birthright. And when he comes in, Rivka had disguised him by she had served two goats. It was Erev Pesach, so this was, I guess, for the Seder meal. This was the one was going to be the carbon Pesach, the offering on Passover, and one was the carbon Chagiga, the offering to celebrate Pesach, to celebrate Passover. And this is, one of the roots of the famous song Chad Gad Yah, two kid goats, and these two kid goats were the goats that Rivka prepared for Yaakov. And he comes in, and Yitzhak says, Hakol Kol Yaakov, Hayedayim Yedei Esav. He says, your voice is the voice of Yaakov. You sound like Yaakov, you sound like Jacob, but your hands and the way you're acting with this deceit of pretending to be your brother, that's the actions of Esav. That's the actions of your brother. So what does all this mean? So there's a famous midrash that says that this is actually the key to ending anti-Semitism. It's like Hakol Kol Yaakov. When the voices of the Jewish people are heard in the Bate Kinesios and the Bate Midrashos, what does that mean? When the Jewish people, when their voices are heard praying in the shuls, praying in the synagogues to Hashem, and the voice of the Jewish people are heard in the yeshivas, learning Torah, learning Hashem's Torah, then the hands of Esav will not be against us, and we won't have this anti-Semitism anymore. Okay, but you say, but we see anti-Semitism coming from all directions now. We see it like on the alt-right. We see it coming from like Kanye West, and now there's Nick Fuentes, like this neo-Nazi character, and it's been classic. The KKK in America, people like David Duke, so you see it on the extreme of the conservative movement, on the extreme right, the alt-right, but you also see it on the extreme of the liberal side, of the extreme wing of the Democrats. You see it in like someone like Louis Farrakhan, or Ilhan Omar, or Rashida Tlaib. You see it also on the alt-left. So you see it coming from both directions, politically. Now you hear, like, surprisingly, like people like Whoopi Goldberg saying like, oh, the Holocaust wasn't racism, and Hamas, is that's not a terrorist group according to some people. So you see it coming from all directions. We thought maybe with the Abraham Accords that the Arab world is beginning to warm up to Israel, but in the World Cup now in Qatar, you see some people directing this hatred and anti-Semitism to Israeli journalists and Israeli fans. So it just seems to be coming from all over, from every direction, and it doesn't matter political group. It's not. I'm not saying like not everyone in the Muslim world is anti-Semitic, but there are those that are in the Muslim world. Not everyone in the black community is anti-Semitism, but you hear it from some. You hear like this crazy groups like the Black Hebrew Israelites that are claiming they're the real Jews and the Jewish people are just the imposters. So we've seen this replacement before, this replacement theories for thousands of years, and New religions, oh, we're the real, we're the real Jews now, and we've heard it before for 1,000 years. So where does it all start? So in essence, it starts with one family dispute. And there was a mission that started with Abraham Avinu. There was a mission that started with Abraham. And what Abraham wanted to bring to the world is he wanted to bring knowledge of Hashem, knowledge that there's only one infinite being that created us all, that connects all of mankind, all of the world. Everyone's living. I think we're up to 8 billion people now, possibly. Everyone is created by this one infinite being. So really, we should all be connected, and that was Abraham's mission to do that. And then he knew, even before the Torah was given, he knew somehow through Ruach HaKodesh or whatever means, he knew the whole Torah, and he and his family personally followed the Torah. But then in the second generation, he wanted to do this. He wanted to bring the knowledge of Hashem and the Torah and the mitzvahs to the world, and he did it through chesed. He did it through kindness. And a mission of kindness. Him and Sarah, his wife, Abraham and Sarah, they were constantly inviting people into their home, giving them these lavish meals, and they say, just thank Hashem, just make a blessing, just thank Hashem. And then the dispute started in the second generation. So when Sarah couldn't have children, Abraham, when they went down to Mitzrayim, when they went down to Egypt, the Pharaoh, the Paro in Egypt, he gave his daughter, the princess of Egypt, Hagar, and then Abraham and Hagar had a son, Ishmael, I think it's translated to in English, Ishmael, and Ishmael wanted to carry on, Abraham's teachings, but he didn't fully adopt. He didn't fully follow Abraham's teachings, and he wanted to get rid of Yitzhak, and that's where some of the hatred began. And he started, and the Midrash says he started firing arrows at Yitzhak to kill him. I mean, he pretended he was just joking around. And it's fascinating, because thousands of years later, some of the children of Ishmael, they do the same thing. The terrorist groups in Gaza, they fire their rockets trying to kill the Jewish people. And it's the same method thousands of years ago. And the Torah says that Ishmael's hands, he will be against everyone. And his hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand will be against him. And we see that some of these terrorist organizations, they attack everyone. They even attacked Arab countries. There's just bombings all over the world, terrorist attacks. And that's not the way of Abraham. That wasn't the way of kindness and chesed. That's not how you bring people to the understanding of this one infinite being that loves everyone, that's created everyone. That's not the way. So we saw so the hatred began in that generation. And then in Parsha Toldos, when Yaakov comes in to get the brachot, the blessings from Yitzhak, then Esav's hatred is kindled. He feels like Yaakov stole from him the birthright, even though he sold it already. He didn't want it. He said he didn't want to follow in the path of Torah. He didn't want to do the mitzvahs, but the hatred of Ishmael is kindled. Now, you say, okay, well, how does this relate to the black Hebrew Israelites and Kanye West and all this, Louis Farrakhan? Like, is all the black community, they all hate Jewish people? No, of course not. But is there some hatred in there? Is there some hatred in the black community? Yes, there is some. There are some. So where does it come from? And it comes from Esav's family. And Esav, his first two wives were, I believe, they were Canaanim. So they were descended from Ham. They were from the African nations. And so in there, is that the part where some of the hatred comes from? Yes, that's where some of the hatred comes from. And his third wife, Esav's third wife, he married Ishmael's daughter. So is that also, from Ishmael and then from the marriage of Esav? So yeah, is there some? Right, so then we see there's some hatred in the Christian world. All Christians? No, of course not. But is there some? Is there some in the Christian community? Is like there's this Nick Fuentes, this new anti-Semite on the scene? Is there hatred? Yes, there's hatred in him. Is that the way? And what was Yitzhak's way? So Yitzhak was the second way to bring Hashem into the world, to bring the knowledge that there's only one infinite being. And that way was through Gevurah, through self-control, through restraint. And that's a harder way. It's a harder way, I mean, Yitzhak did this as much as Avraham did it, to the fullest extent of kindness and chesed, where Avraham was even willing to offer his own son back to Hashem. Yitzhak was willing to give up his own life. He was 37 at the time of the Kedah. He wasn't a young boy, as sometimes it's portrayed. I mean, he was in the height of his physical strength, but he was willing to offer his life back to Hashem, because he knew that all life comes from Hashem. And this is hard for us to understand. I mean, who of us are so great that we would come up to these levels? You know, and the Gemara says, we ask ourselves, when will my actions, when will my life be anything like the lives of the Avos and the Amakos, the fathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, and the mothers, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah? I mean, they all did incredible things, incredible self-sacrifice, all to bring wisdom and knowledge into the world. That we're all connected, that we're all created by the same infinite being. There's only one God. I mean, that's the whole point of the Torah. So we see, I mean, the anti-Semitism is coming from the political right and the political left. There's no political solution. Even if all the Jewish people voted, for the conservatives, or all the Jewish people voted for the liberals, it won't stop it, because that's not the source of it all. But the secret is when we continue the mission of Abraham and Yitzhak. And what was Yaakov? So how did Yaakov fulfill the mission? He was the balance of these two. He was the balance of chesed, the balance of kindness, and the balance of gevura, of strength, of self-control. And he was the balance. He was tiferes, which means beauty, but it means also emes. It means truth. And the Torah is truth. The Torah is the ultimate truth. And we live right now in this age where truth seems to be absent. People seem to be so biased, and if political views or religious views or whatever, they can only see their bias, and it's hard for us to break out of our bias. But the emes of Yaakov, the total truth of the world, is that there's this absolute unity. There's one infinite being. There's only one God. And he's created everyone, all 8 billion people, and each person is created with the Tselem Elohim. Each person is created in the image of this infinite being, because we all are who we really are. Our essence is an neshama, a soul. We are spiritual beings put into a physical body, put into this physical world. And the mission of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov is to show the truth, to show that we are spiritual beings. We all have this great potential. We have a neshama created in the image of Hashem. We can do kindness like Hashem. We can have gevura, self-control like Hashem. We can have tiferes, beauty and emes like Hashem. We can be like Hashem. Can any of us become God? No. Chas v'shalom. There's humility, an anava, a humility that we're not Hashem. We're not perfect. We can make mistakes. Chas v'shalom, we do averos. Chas v'shalom, sometimes we miss the mark. We don't live up to the Torah. We disobey Chas v'shalom, the words of Hashem sometimes. But Hashem's given us this miraculous thing, teshuvah, the ability to return, the ability to correct our mistakes, the tikkun ha'olam, the ability to correct ourselves. Now how? How is the tikkun olam done? Not through political means, not through the latest political fad, but for what we've been doing for thousands of years. Learning the Torah and doing the mitzvos. And the mitzvos are teaching us how to become better people. Simple things like love your friend like yourself. Powerful mitzvah. Hard to do. It takes years and years of practice every day. Learning about it, doing it. Kivat aveim, honor your parents. Hard to do sometimes. Work on it every day. We work on it for years. Sometimes we're better at it, sometimes we're not. The mitzvah is always there to do. And all these fantastic mitzvahs, 613, and the 7 mitzvahs d'Rabbanan. And this is how we change the world. This is how we end anti-Semitism. But we can't do it politically. There's no, there's only, the Torah has told us clearly, it's only Hakol Kol Yaakov. Davening, tefillah, praying to Hashem for a better world. Praying to Hashem to help us make ourselves better. Praying to Hashem to help us make the lives of those around us better. And then Hayadayim de Esav. And sometimes we're going to have to use the strength of an Esav. Esav, who was given the bracha of char, what's it? I'm sorry, I don't know exactly. It's charvo or charvecha tichiyeh. Like, you'll live by your sword. Like, Esav was given the blessing of combat. And sometimes we have to fight. Sometimes we have to fight to say the truth. To say that the Torah is the emes. The Torah is the blueprint of all creation. And the mitzvahs are like these invaluable gifts. Sometimes we have to fight, because not everyone believes it. I mean, do we have to be mean or cruel? No. To try to listen. We have to try to talk. Vayikra b'shem Hashem. We call out in the name of Hashem. We do it through kindness, do it through self-control. We do it through balancing them both. And then the other ways we can talk about in future videos. But it's simple. But the great thing is the power to stop it is in our hands. The power to stop it is in our voices, spreading the beautiful words of Torah, and in our hands, in doing the mitzvos. So it's in our control. It's not in the anti-Semites' control. We can end anti-Semitism. But anti-Semitism is Hashem putting up a road sign. Stop. Stop. Go in the right direction. Go on the derech. Go on the derech Hashem. So we can only do it through the one path. But that path has 70 facets. But we have to follow the path. Okay. I hope you enjoyed it. B'ezrat Hashem, I hope the Jewish people, we wake up. We start the beautiful davening and singing the words of the Torah and doing kindness and doing the mitzvahs and can put an end to this anti-Semitism. What are we waiting for? Let's end it today. Okay. Hope to see you back soon on Sweet Good Torah.